Before we spend the next 80 minutes totally abusing and misusing the word chops, please allow me to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Reed Gober, joining the Emo Veterans. Thanks so much for supporting the show, man. It truly means the world. We are super, super honored to have you here. And now to the drum draft. Pat, not to throw you under the bus, I know you were rarely at band practice, JK, but...
I was at more practices than shows.
That's actually true. I don't know which one.
I was great about it. I was like the opposite of, I was like a very uniquely shitty bandmate. I was always at practices and never at shows, as opposed to people that would just show up at gigs expecting to, I feel like that's a rare thing. Still not proud of it, but it is shitty for a different reason.
It still haunts me to this day, calling Ian Bowers 12 minutes before we go on the stage asking if he can fill in.
There you go.
And he did, and he was awesome, having never heard our songs. Either that's a testament to how good he was at bass or how bad our songwriting was. But
a little bit of both.
Speaking of songwriting, do you remember being in the basement and me and Zach kind of just talking gibberish to each other? Like, no, dude, what if you tried, rather than like boop boop bop do go bop 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 da do do, what if you're like bop digga bop bop, you know, digga digga dop dop bow, and just like talking drummer gibberish, trying to figure out parts of what would make the song the most fun. Like, I just think it's such a beautiful and unique thing that makes no sense to anyone that's ever like not been in a band, but anyone that has been in that basement of their friend's mom's house knows exactly what the f you're talking about.
I remember not only that, but trying to do it with Adam and his guitar parts. It's kind of like in The Pick of Destiny where Jack Black takes ketchup and writes a star on the carpet that's upside down and lights some candles, and Cage gets inside and he's like, hits the record button. He's just like, okay, start. And then he starts playing. He's like, no, bring it up a little bit. Ooh, yeah. You know, just kind of just like guiding him through with no technical jargon and whatsoever, just kind of like only feeling it out in a very primitive way. But at least theirs was exciting. Ours was mostly confusing, but I think we had a good time with it. But yeah, I remember Zach would try to sit down sometimes and show you, and then immediately realize he was out of his element and just hand the sticks back. Which he would have been better at Adam or I at fake drumming, but by a lot. But yeah, no, it's a different language. It's a different language. It's interesting because satire sites like The Hard Times, it's easy to just be like, you know, essentially bass players, right? Like, haha. But it's drummers. It's kind of, it depends how you feel. Like drummers are either, I don't really know. What is your perception? Oh, this is the drum episode, everybody. By the way. Should we just, yeah, let's get into it. Let's play the intro.
What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. Yeah, the drum draft, which I feel like we were pretty nervous going into because
I'm still nervous.
With the exception of a few people in the fields, the genre is not super well known for its like technical abilities. I think we saw a bit of that in the bass draft when we're drafting fucking that Newfound Glory song. Boom, dong, dong, dong.
Yeah, I'm not even going to apologize for that. The spirit of the draft was songs that, it was interesting, and it might frame how we're going to approach this, right? So this is just like our favorite songs that have like prominent bass parts, right? But as we were recording, it kind of took on this, who has chops, which is a different kind of discussion. Chops. Oh, he's got chops. Is he Flea? That dude's got chops. Is he a early app on like the early version of iPhone with a bunch of fruit flying in the air? Because that person's got chops. Where the are we? Okay, yes, no. This is the drum draft, and I think we wanted to balance a little bit. Well, let's get this out of the way right away. Adrian, one of our Twitter followers and beloved listeners, said only one Travis Barker song per mixtape. So thoughts on like, which is a handcuff from the jump.
It is, man.
Right. Because do you want to do the Travis thing now or wait till we get into the picks and talk about it? Maybe we wait.
In the words of one of my favorite pop punk frontmen, Parker Cannon, stifled.
Wow,
Because
dude.
yeah, dude. How do you not pick Travis every pick? I mean, like,
well, the joke was like, were you and I just going to take turns picking tracks from Blink's self-titled album, where he basically, like, someone had to save Mark and Tom from like whispering World War II era letters to each other from the different sides of an abandoned house or whatever. He's like, you know what? This, I'm just going to go nuts on every song, like above it. Like, we'll talk about Blink 182 later. That's not what this is right now, I don't think. But do you want to go 2 tops for each? Because this applies to a few other drummers that we're going to talk about today as well. You don't just want to go too heavy on one person. Not that there aren't others. I do want to make that clear as well. But we were tempted just to, well, I texted you like, hey, as a bit, do you want to take it seriously? And then I'll just, pick Blink self-titled ones. And you're like, no, dude, I want feeling this. So, so we're like, we both had the idea to like kind of, I guess, sandbag this episode, just like call it a Travis celebration. But we're not going to do that. We're going to listen to Adrian at least. But do you want to go 2 at least?
I'm going to fight fair and actually just give you one Travis. Travis. Okay,
so only one drummer per mixtape, which means you and I are.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, this is a mixtape episode or a draft, if you will, where we each pick songs. Tom makes one, I make one, and we compete. But at the end, it all ends up in one playlist on Spotify, on our website, and everything like that. And if you're new, follow us on Twitter at _reminiscentfm. But this is the drum draft. The riff draft was fun, a little easier. Might have been a little confusing to define what a riff is at first, but we look,
right.
I think you know it when you feel it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that quote about pornography. Like, I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it. You kind of know what a riff is when you hear it. Bass, it was just like anything with no noticeable bass. And let's be clear, this is such a specific genre / slice of time, right? So if you're coming to this thinking we're going to wax poetic about Neil Peart or something, you're in the wrong place, man.
Dude's overrated anyways.
Oh, man. Well, here we go.
His drum set was beautiful.
And they're gone.
And I actually had a picture of Neil Peart's drum set in my locker in 8th grade, having no idea who Neil Peart was. And later on, just because his drum set was so sick, but later on, he came out with like a line of cymbals called Paragon. I forget if it was like Sabian or who the parent company was. But there was this like excruciatingly long video of him playing, and it was just like, that's too many cymbals, man. Like, he really loves playing those cymbals, and I'm more of I want to hear some floor tom and some ghost notes on the snare. Like, that's what I'm here for. Get the off the cymbals, dude. Maybe a choked hi-hat.
Interesting. Well, what's interesting to me is just literally at the start of any quote-unquote research for this, which was limited at best, welcome to the show, but is that Meg White and Neil Peart both have accomplished a great deal sitting in the position of drummer, right? And I think they are different for so many reasons, but they both add what is needed for their particular groups. I'm excited to dig a little deeper on that today, whether someone's keeping time versus using it and playing it as an instrument, etc. But we roll some dice. We decide who goes first. We might go 5. We might go 7. We're feeling nervous. I put together a bunch of notes that Tom has not seen, which is the way this goes. And he's done the same for me.
Anyway, for the drafts.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Any thoughts? Any concerns? How are you? How's your butt?
Well, I don't know, man. It's really hard because, my first instrument was drums, and I have never been great at learning other people's music and playing it how it was played on the record. I was kind of like wanting to find my own groove a little bit with it. But honestly, I think that is what has seriously held me back as a musician. I'm trying to... God, unfortunately, my drums are just in a closet right now because there's nowhere for me to play. My dog is terrified. I'm sure the baby wouldn't like it. But with guitar anyway, I'm trying to learn people's music and play it exactly with the same vibe, with the same feel. It's something I wish I did more as a drummer. I don't think tab sites were as prominent back then, and they certainly weren't for drums. So all that to say, going into this draft, it's almost like I very specifically remember a lot of Blink songs from the self-titled album that had very standout drums to me. But the rest was I spent a lot of time trying to jog my memory on what are some songs with, I don't know. I'm not necessarily looking for the most technical stuff in this draft. I mean, again, pop punk is not the technical genre. If we were going metalcore or something, we would have way different things to talk about in terms of drums.
Yeah, like I don't know if this is even a good example, but for the riff draft, nobody we talk like we don't have a loyal core of listeners, so I think everyone gets it. But yeah, also disclaimer, we're gonna this up for sure. So tweet at us at _reminiscent_FM with your list, because we're gonna miss something. But I still don't want to like downplay it too much. I'm excited to get into it, and I still do want to whoop you and everyone else listening. No, yeah.
Do you want to do the dice roll and you can lose like you have for the past 6 months?
I have not. Lady Luck has not been with me. Luck, if you've ever been a lady to begin with, be a lady tonight. I beg of you. As like a middle schooler, my Aunt Colleen had me play small extra roles in Guys and Dolls and Damn Yankees at Academy. So Guys and Dolls, great soundtrack. We'll have to do a Guys and Dolls episode. I would actually very much enjoy that. Totally. I would love it.
Right after West Side Story.
Nathan, Detroit.
Let's do it.
Anyway,
evens or odds?
Evens. Even Steven. I've been going odds too much.
All right, here we go. Today's your day, Pat. 5 and a 1.
Luck be a lady tonight. Cool. Into it. What do I want to go? I'll go second and third because I want to stockpile some goodies. And I am now very fascinated which one you're going to pick first.
I mean,
because we think we know where each other's going, and I think we know where we're both starting. But
I don't think there's going to be
the fate of our universes for the next 1,000 years.
I don't think there's going to be that much overlap, to be honest. You might be surprised.
It depends who's got the chops.
I'm going to go Feeling This by Blink-182.
Yeah,
Drummer,
it's a good
obviously,
pick. It's a good pick.
Travis Barker. So, like, the opening drum lick is so sick. Oh, yeah, this is another rule. We have to mouth the drums for every part.
I like that rule. Okay, sure.
So, there's a lot of ghost notes. There's double kicks. It starts off... Right? So, like...
Okay, now I don't know if I like that rule.
So that part is cool enough, but I remember being a young 13-year-old drummer, just kind of learning how to play and hearing the cowbell would it be the chorus? Is it the bridge? I forget. Anyway, he's doing that part where he's like, and he's like playing off of the cowbell. And I don't know if you remember this. I had this huge cowbell. What was the brand? Latin Percussion Instruments. Just on my hi-hat for years. And the only reason I owned it, the only time it ever was touched, was when I was playing this specific part of Feeling This.
My only note on this, Travis drums so well that cowbell becomes punk for 3.5 minutes or whatever it is.
It's just so sick. I mean,
it might be my favorite Blink song, to be honest, and Travis plays a big part of this. Here's a question. Is the Tom versus Mark discourse and really an argument all these years about who's the second most important member of Blink-182?
God, honestly, maybe that might be.
No, I'm not. That's not a knock on either of them. I was going through some of these songs and some of this Blink stuff we were going to touch on at the beginning, and I had to ask the question just because, does Enema go nuts if he doesn't join? R.I.P. to the Aquabats, of course.
Probably not, man. I mean, the grooves that Travis laid down in all the records, I think really made it what it was. So I remember, Seth, I was talking about him a couple weeks ago. Anytime I bring up Chiodos, I bring up Seth, great emo hair. He loved...
A high school classmate of ours.
Yes. He loved Avenged Sevenfold. And he always talked about the Rev and how he was the greatest drummer. He was so much better than Travis Barker because of, I think, just like pure speed, maybe. And I would get so angry. I mean, I have the black and white checkered Travis Barker cymbal bag and stick bag, and I used to use his sticks, but they break pretty easily. I think they're a little harder than normal sticks, but I mean, I love Travis Barker, and I don't think it's like, there are times when he totally freaks out. What is it like? is it Here's Your Letter or something, where it's like this super long interlude.
Don't be picking ahead.
I'm not big. I mean, that's already
the drum breath, baby.
But he goes nuts, and he can do that, obviously, if you've seen any of his drum solos. But the thing that I really like about him is like, it would have been easy to go real simple with the groove itself, but he throws in all these ghost notes and like offbeat hits and doing interesting stuff with the cymbals. I mean, even like the beginning of the rock show, I think there's like this weird little offbeat crash that happens that the song wouldn't have been much different without it, but the fact that it's there just kind of like elevates it a little bit. Travis is a fucking god, dude. I mean, just the best.
Yeah, I was watching the Tokyo Olympics the other night, and someone was calling swimming for the radio broadcast or television broadcast. And he was like, yeah, and this young man says he's a fan of Travis Barker. And boy, can that guy play the drums. And I was like, is this how boomers feel all the time? Just people of a similar age celebrating their fucking bullshit culture 20 years later. You're just like, yeah, hey, I agree with you. I like this guy. He's speaking my language, baby. Just, I don't know, like, greatest generation. I don't know. It just felt so weird to be like, the fact that shows like Pen 15 even exist lets me know that we're like of a consuming age, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, to hear Travis Barker brought up in that way at the Olympics was interesting, because I remember like 10 years ago there was Rolling Stone listicles and stuff about like, or maybe not Rolling Stone, but I don't know. I feel like the tide has turned or something, but people were like very hesitant to give him any credit at all. But I guess like, do naysayers have a point? Because I feel like for a time there, it was just like, oh, he's trash. Like people would really have that opinion like smugly. And I just, as a layman, was curious how that could even be a thought after what I thought what I was hearing was just a different understanding of, it's like a different understanding of how to even use the things that are in front of a drummer. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you read some of his interviews, he talks about being on tour and how Mark and Tom would go out partying after the show, and Travis would stay in and practice drums for another 2, 3, or 4 hours alone in the hotel on practice pads. Like,
yeah,
you don't get that good by accident, and you don't work that hard without being something special, you know? Just doesn't, I don't know.
And now him and Jack Antonoff are the only two people that work with pop artists, I think, in the world of music. It's just, you either go one route or the other. And, it is what it is. That's 2021 in a nutshell, I guess.
Nuts,
No, yeah, he has kind of become pop punk scram pop or something. It's like, sure, I'll work with you, MGK. Let's go watch a boxing match together. What are you doing tonight? I don't know if Travis talks like that. He doesn't talk very often. I don't know how the his voice sounds. No, I'll just do my round 2 right away here, just to stay on this train while we're on this line of thought. Sorry, I bumped my mic stand there a little bit. I'm going to go Violence off of that same record.
Oh, whoa.
I believe Al on Twitter, she said, guys, hear me out. You just pick Violence on every turn for this stuff because the drums on that song are just wow.
She's not wrong.
And, she's not wrong. Anyway, that's my attempt to scat out what I believe is one of the fills on that song. But I do remember hearing this album for the first time, kind of that first run through when you got a CD in your hands. I remember feeling this sounded super fun and like different in a new, fun, amazing way for my favorite band. Kind of the give and take they had going, like they had reached a new level of sorts, but something was different, obviously. But then the other thing that stood out to me, other than just how feeling this was hitting my ears compared to like listening to the Burns copy of Dude Ranch I had, the drums on this song I think stood out because I was like, oh, Travis is f***ing on one. I was like, oh, like it had never been so overt, I guess. Because again, a layman's ears and everything like that. But I think this song in particular is just like, I'm like, oh, wow, they're letting him go to work. And go to work he did. Again, unless I'm wrong, you can feel free to just, as a drummer, correct me, but I feel pretty good with this pick as my Travis pick for all intents and purposes for this episode. I would choose that one. But I am curious, if we're done with Travis songs for the whole draft, I was looking at songs like First Date, right? Like the radio hit, like The Aliens Come, Blink. They probably hear that Blink song first, maybe it's I Miss You, I don't know. But is that just a run-of-the-mill pop punk song without him? I was trying to listen closely at the way he's tapping you say Neil Peart used too many cymbals, but I do think there's a way Travis was hitting the various things in front of him in a way that elevated the song and raised the floor. And, people always talk about Nirvana popping off when Dave Grohl became the drummer and, kind of the floor raising aspect of what a drummer can bring or how important they become to the sound and things like that. I don't know. Just First State stood out to me as far as if you look at the overall catalog, like, do they do what they did without Travis? I think the answer is definitely no. Maybe they still are famous, but he might be the most important member of the band, right? I mean, there's a lot going on there.
I think so. I mean, I don't think it's Blink without any of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they've managed to put out 2 records without Tom. I don't think they would have done shit without Travis. Yeah, I don't know. And Violence is really sick. I mean, there's a very Travis beat on that where he's going like playing between doubles on the snare and then doubles on the high tom with double kicks in between. It's pretty sick. If I got to pick another song on that album, it was actually really hard. I would have picked Down because I don't know.
That was
man.
another hot one on, like, if you go to some of the comments or threads or across the internet, whether it's Reddit, whatever, Down was a high pick off this record as well.
It's a really, really unique groove that I think it's not like it's that overly technical, but it's unexpected from, I would imagine, take 99 other drummers, no one would have come up with something that unique with not as much going on. And obviously the fills in there are really sick too, but
well, just the notes I have for Down are snare, snare, snare. And
Yeah.
My other note was Travis is acting like he's in that movie Crank where he has to keep his adrenaline going to stay alive, tapping whatever's in front of him as hard and as fast as he can.
Many ghost notes, man. Yeah.
And also, like, I'm picturing, like, how they spin him upside down during live performances.
Yeah.
It's like during this album, he's like, no, we're doing more. Spin me upside down. I'm going in. Like, Travis, it's not, we're doing the World War II letter thing in a minute. You don't have to go this hard. He's like, I know what I have to do. Be vegan and drum upside down.
All right. Well,
anyway,
we should
we're
stop
done
talking
with the
about
Travis part. No, it's over. We love his work. We're big fans of his work.
And now for everyone else.
And now for everyone else. You know what I'm going to do? You don't have to play along, but I'm going to keep acting like you will. Hey, Tom, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go Jesus of Suburbia by Green Day. Make a little fart in there. I'll take that one again. Which is the only part I remember off the top of my head in this moment. The song's 7 minutes long. I'm not going to regale. Right. No, yeah. The fills are quickly very interesting and cool and intricate. Yeah. You have a better one. Yeah, my lips started to make a fart thing going there. I was really not scatting very well, which I didn't really agree to or claim to be good at, so I'm good with it. I'm at peace with it, but I don't want to stop trying because I think it's fun. But just Trey Cool having fun. They built this like nearly 10-minute long playground for him to just do what he does. There was like that medley trend in the 2000s that I think Jesus of Suburbia, when people our age heard American Idiot who didn't really have, I mean, you liked early Green Day, of course, but we weren't alive and teens when that stuff was released, so we weren't like hurt by its existence or anything. People are like, oh man, I can't believe what they've become. To us, it was just like, oh yeah, man, this freaking rules. I'm in 5th grade and everything's great. But I guess my question to you is, I'm assuming Trey Cool is one of the better drummers of kind of our lifetimes, but I wanted you as a drummer to confirm that. I was trying to look for kind of the best example of drumming on American Idiot because that's the record in this decade we talk about that probably had the best chance at it. We if you're new here, we go from 2000 to 2010, but it seemed like at least a safe example of just him doing what he does, pretty well. Because I think that record is a lot of like songwriting, I always say Billy Joel, but anyway, the lead singer, not that it's a lot like, Wake Me Up When September Ends is an example of just like good songwriting, not necessarily chops, you know what I mean? So, it's interesting. I wonder if there was kind of like an underrated effort on Trey Cool's part for that entire album to like add a punk sound to it or something. I mean, obviously American Idiot is like supposed to be a prototypical punk song or whatever, but like it's mostly they just had, it seemed like they more had a story to tell than angst to rock through. You know what I mean? On that particular record.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that's a problem, but like, I just think Jesus of Suburbia is an instance where Trey's like, no, we're still getting after a little bit. And he adds some oomph to it. And credit where credit's due there. But you're saying it's a pretty easy yes that Trey Cool is like somebody who deserves to be mentioned today.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's incredible. I think he puts a lot of care into his drums. He's definitely of like an older, more traditional like rock style, I think, than someone like Travis Barker is. But that doesn't mean he doesn't absolutely fucking slay. I mean, he's incredible. And yeah, I think if we're looking at like, Basket Case would be my number 2 pick if we weren't limiting this to the years 2000 to 2010. I mean, his drumming in that is so sick. And it seems like he got a little bit more reserved over time, which is like a good drummer should meet the needs of the song, not just solo over for a 3.5 minute track, So there's a lot to say for having some restraint. But yeah, they let him loose in Jesus of Suburbia, and it's great.
Also, he had some gambling debts heading into that record, and they broke a lot of his fingers, so it makes the performance even more impressive.
Wait, what?
No, I'm joking. As far as I know, he was fully healthy, but I don't know why I said that. That doesn't help the episode in any measurable way.
Travis Barker played some shows with only one arm. And
yeah, I think it might have been Matt who tweeted the Letterman clip. Yeah. Honestly, members of Blink-182 were always strangely unhealthy and injured whenever they went on David Letterman's show. Black guys. That's like my favorite piece of Blink lore is like whether or not they punched each other in the face right before coming on Letterman.
Right.
I don't want to talk about it, Dave. I'm emo Tom now. This is the darkest timeline.
Oh boy.
Anyway, back to you, my guy, my boy, my dude, my gangster, my G, my king.
There's some songs I might pick before this, but I'm trying to play the game and keep you from taking them. So,
hey, don't worry, King. Go at your own pace and be confident in yourself.
People should have heard this a while ago that I would be picking this, but shout out to Tony Thaxton, the drummer of Motion City Soundtrack.
Ooh.
He is on one of probably the most underrated drummers ever. And I think it's because his drums are, again, they're like sneaky good. He's not shredding really ever, but his parts are so sick. And again, one of my favorite grooves ever is Broken Heart. It's so sick. And when I was like,
that's probably
16,
the closest you or I have gotten today to matching the scatting with the drumming. Proud of you for that one, bud.
Just so fun. I remember playing that endlessly when I was like 17. He's like the master at adding really fun open hi-hats at unexpected times, or just doing interesting accents on the hi-hats. Like, I think the hi-hat isn't fucking blazing take warning. The hi-hat is one of the most underrated parts of a drum set.
Whoa. Wow. Everyone who's here, wow. Like,
you can do a lot with it.
Whoa.
You can do a whole lot with it. So that's a fun one. You've heard me talk about it before. I don't want to, spend too much time, but I saw you tweeted something asking, kind of crowdsourcing some help for this episode.
Yes, we straight up crowdsourced for this episode.
Well, no,
we didn't
you did.
Well, have I picked any of the crowdsourced songs yet?
Well,
maybe immediately out of the gate. Yes, I did. Because
here's what's kind of up, though. A lot of the songs I already had on a list were then recommended, so I need the people to know,
dude. Dude. For sure, dude.
I need the people to know. These are my ideas. I had them before I read all your tweets.
Yeah.
But let me say, also, yes, speaking of Basket Case being the 90s, if we even touched 2011, it would have been just like all. It would have been such a hard episode. We have Ryan Dorff of The Story So Far playing.
Yeah.
We have Suburbia. I've given you all and now I'm nothing. Jesus Christ, man. So anyway, whatever. Let me just say though,
whatever.
When you mentioned Drum Draft, the absolute first thing that entered my mind was Grapevine Fires by Death Cab for Cutie.
Ooh.
And
okay. Let's stop right here. Oh, go ahead. Actually, finish it.
I want to shout out the drummer. I'm trying to get all their names in here. I forgot to look up the drummer, Jason McGerr. Yeah, Jason McGerr. So I'll put a link in the show notes, but there is a beat called the Purdie Shuffle, and it was kind of invented by, I almost said Roy Purdie. It's not Roy Purdie. I forget the guy's first name. Purdie. Bernard Purdie. And a shuffle beat was like super popular. I think it was like 70s and 80s, where the hi-hats are doing like a, and it's very like bluesy, folky. But what Bernard Purdie did was the spots where the hi-hat wasn't, he added a ghost note on the snare. So it's, and there's accents on the hi-hat. So it's this really interesting triplet groove. And it's really hard to play because you have to hit like an actual snare hit, one of the triplets right before a ghost note on the snare. And it's really hard to keep that groove with a really hard snare hit and then a really tame one right afterwards, going into the different, like, I guess, velocity hits on a hi-hat. It's really tough, but it's a really beautiful beat. And the drummer of Death Cab for Cutie does a really interesting variation on the Purdie Shuffle that I actually spent, like, I remember a few hours a day for like a week in my garage trying to learn this beat, because he substitutes some of the lighter hi-hat hits for like a hi-hat where you click it with your feet. And it's just like this really unique groove that I think some people would notice, but since it's so consistent throughout the song, people might not realize how interesting and how technical this groove actually is. And it's like the kick pattern is changing underneath it all the time, which adds to how complicated it is. But it's one of my favorite drum grooves ever. And I love his really unique take on it, which I've never really heard before.
Yeah, this is from Obscure History on Twitter. This is the name of the account. Recent new follower. He had tweeted this our way. My note here is that bringing Gibbard's poetry to life when he's being particularly morose is no small task. So one of those instances of not just keeping time, but like playing the drums like an instrument to help, make a song what it is, more or less. Because it's interesting to hear you kind of go into kind of the background of what that beat is and why it's technically difficult. Because to the layperson, it's just the slow song on the album. Well, there's like, maybe it's just
right.
A slow album. I don't even want to get into that right now. But it's just kind of like, oh, that's the particularly morose one. But I think it's not what it is without his work there. So definitely interesting.
And hey, man, that whole record has some really fun drums on it. I remember teaching Hannah how to play Kath. Like, just really interesting stuff on the record. I think everyone's really just having a good time there, regardless of what the lyrics.
It's a great album, which we should talk about. Maybe we should do a Death Cab thing coming up here. But yeah, I had Kath as my ringtone for years, and there's a lot of weird, like a lot of like when I hear it, if it comes on shuffle or something, I'm like, kind of takes me back to a day or a week or a month or something where that was my ringtone. It's like I went from Crush, Crush, Crush to that, I think is how that went. So it was definitely paradigm shift during my high school years to some degree.
Right. Damn.
Good pick though. Good pick. That was definitely on the list because it was on my list. But then of course, Obscure History tweeted at us, and it was like, oh, good thing he wants it too because it was already on my doc. So, this is going to work out well for everybody. Okay. Well, just playing the game. I'm going to try to keep it tight in terms of like themes, right? I'm going to do that. What Adrian swears needs to be taken, I'll give it to him. Time Turn Fragile. I'll commit this to memory and stick with Thaxton. Although, okay, the bridge, the snare, that for like 5 minutes, just like making like a very vulnerable JCP moment, bringing it alive, giving it a heartbeat, taking just a song and making it meaningful, taking it up a level, floor raising. I don't want to repeat myself too much in this episode, but I was looking at other songs on this album. Feels Like Rain and When You're Around jumped out to me as well in terms of just like, we talked about it with talking about the Blink stuff a little bit, but like, is this just okay punk, pop punk without the drummer's efforts here? Like, what is the most important element of Motion City when they're doing what they do best? And he's got to be at least in the top 2 elements, I'd have to imagine. I don't know if it's Justin Courtney Pierre's voice comes in at number 1 there. I'm not sure, but they're not exactly a shreddy band. But yeah, like you said, he does it a little bit quietly. But When You're Around is an example of just like, it's almost like he's a conductor to a degree, letting the audience know where the is supposed to land and where the, just kind of like, to me as a layperson, it's great because he like makes it pretty clear what's supposed to hit hard and what's supposed to, you know what I mean? So I appreciate him laying it down in the way that he does, just because it makes it easy on the listener to be like, oh yeah, ooh, I feel a certain way because he's hitting the drums in a certain way. Man, you are obviously the drummer on this record, so I'll talk less and make you talk more. He hit it hard that time. Me go woo, but Time Turned Fragile. Obviously, like it's like a mid-career late album song that is beloved by everyone, I think, because of his efforts. So obviously, we're talking about somebody adding something very special. So I'll move along from that. I think our Thaxton quote has been hit, and I'm glad we went there. Let's see, our Barker, our Thaxton. What should I do next? What do I want to try to beat you to? Here's an interesting one. I'm going to go Breathing by Yellowcard.
Oh, man.
Mr. Parsons III.
LP3, yeah.
I don't know what muscle gets worked out. Is it your quad from hitting the bass drum? But I imagine his were shredded after going on tour after Ocean Avenue came out. I'm not sure I could scat it, but the man's putting in work, and I'll let you have the floor, I think, as to explain why. I don't know if this is going to be a pick of yours, but I figured we'd give him a shout out today in some capacity. And there seems to be an internet consensus that Breathing is a fine example of him doing what he does.
I don't think it would have come to mind. I actually have 2 or 3 LP3 picks in here. I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with, but he is one of the sickest. And when I was kind of talking about how Travis can play fast as but that's not necessarily always his go-to. LP3 just is at 100 all the time, but he makes it, I don't know. So was Scott Rayner, and no offense to Scott Rayner, he just played fast. I think, I don't even know. Well,
your explanation of Great Fire Vines is very meaningful for for people like me who don't know shit, basically, but why that's good. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like, how could you talk shit about Travis ever? He's so fast, he drummed fast. He drummed fast. But yes, no, this man's doing it in a very impressive way, you're saying?
Oh yeah. And
fast
it's like,
and furious.
It's fast, but it's not just speed for the sake of speed. He's doing it at times where it makes sense. And he's not just like flexing because he can. Like, there is some restraint in how absolutely incredibly fast he plays.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for making the song better, not just proving to everybody you're good, right? Like playing the instrument in front of you in a way that elevates the band. Because, obviously they were the band with the violin or whatever, but I'm trying to think of how people got out of these scenes, right? Like, if you have somebody like Tyson Ritter who's handsome as hell, and you are the All-American Rejects, you're just a rock band who's destined for stardom. Or, when we did the riff draft, it was kind of interesting. I don't know if the 70s or like kind of the classic rock era was better for like kind of these rock gods or like these guitarists. I don't know, 2000s emo and pop punk and everything. Nobody's really known. There aren't that many examples of people good at any of the instruments, which I guess is like the knock on punk. Like,
right.
Like the Hard Times has articles like guitarists kicked out of punk band for learning fourth chord and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like, this is kind of an inherently shitty like exercise or like flawed exercise, but it's interesting. A lot of these reasons why the bands would have made it out of their respective scenes or whatever, and I'm always intrigued. And I have to imagine LP3 is the nickname. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, well, because his first name is like, I think it's French. It's like, oh God, Jeremy would probably correct me on this.
Longino
Longino, yeah, something like that. It's I think Jeremy has corrected me on that, actually.
Yes, I'm sure he'll do it again because we obviously haven't learned our lesson. But one thing I'll say is, like, when you listen to Ryan Key in interviews, he talks about how they came from kind of a skate thrash scene. So I wonder if there was kind of a speed sensibility as their songwriting improved and as they added, as Yellowcard became Yellowcard and not just some of his particular early skate thrashy endeavors. So
right. I mean, if you listen to Yellowcard's like very early EPs or albums, it's super fast. Even the drums on Ocean Avenue, he is just throwing down 16th notes on that snare drum for like an entire measure, just like relentlessly. It's just really fucking fast, but it works.
Gotcha.
Like,
well, you got me questioning myself because you said you have LP3 songs to pick, but not that one. So I'm like, oh shit, my lack of expertise is showing. If it wasn't already.
I hope you're all enjoying the episode, but allow me to briefly break in here and thank our top-tier Patreon supporters, our Council of Elders. In this group, we have Andre Vervost, Johnny Leftwich, Jason Carey, Anonymous, Chris Lukey, Nathan Eshelman, Drew Edwards, and Carrie Sanchez. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. It is truly incredible that you are all here supporting what we do. If you'd like to check out the Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/reminiscent. Check out the 3 tiers that we offer: the Emo Kid, Emo Veteran, and the Emo Elder. You can find weekly post shows, monthly video AMAs, behind the scenes photos and videos, merch discounts, all kinds of stuff. Again, that is patreon.com/reminiscent. And now back to the episode.
Do I get another one, or is it already back to you?
It's back to me.
Gotcha.
So another one that I said not too long ago, I would definitely pick Where I Want to Be by the Dangerous Summer drummer Tyler Minsberg. He has some of the most interesting fills and grooves, especially live on this song. It's everything throughout the song is so interesting to me. And there was actually, I'm picking songs that made me as a drummer think about how to utilize a drum set differently than I ever had before. And he does this thing where he is maintaining the quarter note crashes, but he's playing 16th notes down the tom as he is sustaining those crashes and hitting the snare on the 2 and the 4. And if you listen to the part in the song where he says, I'm something finally, and I'm never looking back. It's right before the last chorus, and there's something in your face that keeps it. Yeah. So like he's doing this drum fill down the toms, still playing the crash, hitting the snare. It sounds like the man has 3 fucking arms, and it's really interesting. The whole bridge, when it drops out, he's doing the rim clicks and the snare rolls is really fascinating. Live, he does this crazy fill that's not in the record. He is just a master at his instrument in the way he uses, rather than playing like more kicks than would be necessary, he uses the floor tom to add some accents, but without overcrowding like the low frequencies there. He does interesting hi-hat accents. Tyler Minsberg is one of my favorite drummers in the scene, hands down. Gotta shout him out.
Kind of at a left field pick from my perspective, but I like the reasoning.
Yeah, I mean, it just like it changed the way that I play drums after I heard that record. Like if you listen to, I talk about the band that I sang in The Good Fight, but actually before I sang in that band, I played drums in it for like a year or a year and a half. And it started off as like an easy core band, but I couldn't play double kick that fast. So I had to try to find other ways to replicate it. And I used a lot of the stuff that I learned from Tyler on this record on how to use a floor tom as like a compliment to a kick drum because I couldn't play it that fast.
I'm definitely interested by someone doing something differently. And like you assume things are so set, but sometimes we'll be doing an episode and you're like, oh, they have their thing on this side. You know, I'm like, oh, well.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, no, they changed the game. I'm like, oh, that's valuable insight because it's interesting that even now there's like, oh yeah, that dude plays in a way that is very unconventional and very cool. It's nice to know that there's still kind of like, I don't know. Nothing's going to come to me, so I'll just let you get out. No, my train of thought went from that to nothing immediately to Fred Armisen's Stand Up For Drummers.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I had a feeling you might have seen that, but I was just thinking about the different styles and just kind of just like drummers are nerds. But in a good way, in the best way. Someone who has like a passion, who cares about a craft, right? Like,
right.
I don't know.
When you were mentioning Trey Cool, I thought of him during that bit where he brought up all those like legendary drummers and he let them solo, but it was just them playing like on their own. And it was like so intentionally lame that it was hilarious. Oh man. So good. Fred Armisen is a weird dude, but hilarious.
Indeed. Yes,
okay.
Both true.
So are we going to go 5 or 7? Because if it's 5, this is my last pick.
I'm along for the ride at this point. If you're feeling strong, I have picks, but I have no frame of reference if they're good, Tom. So you help me help myself. Let's go 7, but know that I am going to bow out and not pretend to just scream into the void, into this microphone, telling people what is good. I'm just going to bring up topics that I think I want you to expand on, and I'll use the rest of the draft in that sense, because I think we can get value for the listener by doing that. But this is not me necessarily thinking I'm beating Tom at this, if that's not like abundantly clear already.
Well, one of my favorite drum songs isn't really pop punk or emo.
Did it come out in the 2000s?
But you know what? F it. Give me Robots 3 Human 0 by Norma Jean.
Oh, that counts. That's in.
The drummer, Chris Rains, just fucking popped off on this song. So
whoa.
It starts off, it's in 4/4, I think, but he plays this really, maybe it's not, maybe it's 5/4. I think it might be 5/4. It goes in and out, but he plays this really interesting beat between just the hi-hat and the snare that keeps changing. It's really hard to understand what he's doing. And then when the whole song drops in, he is just hitting that snare seemingly at random, but it really fits the song. Like, I don't really know what else to say about it. It is kind of insanity. And the thing that I really love about Norma Jean is they tend to like really throw any kind of comfort to the wind for like 4/5 of a song, and then at one point it drops, it just like locks into this like 4/4 groove, and it's just like it builds all this tension through like something with the rhythm that feels kind like just off enough to make you be like, what is happening? And then when you like almost have had enough with it, they let the song breathe and they open it up with the 4/4. And I remember driving back from Hannah's house. This is when The Anti-Mother came out, and just trying to understand how he must be counting to stay on track with this beat. It's absolute insanity. I have tried to sit down and analyze it in my head, never wrote anything out or anything, but it is just something that puts my mind in a bottle, man. It's nuts. So,
which is that the goal of any drummer, to put someone's mind in a bottle?
I mean, kind of like with a bridge, you can either go real high or real low. Either you're like, you know, trying to play something that is very technical and fun, or you're just trying to like keep things moving along. I enjoy the songs that have a good amount of both. And people talk about like fills, like they're so interested in like fills. And I think that, early punk kind of stuff is just like either the punk beat or a pretty normal beat. And then every 3 bars, they do something fast. They just do a fill. I really enjoy when drummers try to incorporate interesting elements throughout just the main beat, and then they can flex on the fills and stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think now, obviously, there was a drop off for me after the Thaxton stuff, but to me, Parker and Thaxton are so good that I can tell they're doing that. Right. They're playing in a way that even I can tell, like, oh, they're playing this instrument better than others have. Yeah. And even I know this, and it's fucking amazing. I love it so much. But yeah, it's not just keeping time, it's playing the instrument, which not everybody in this genre does, I think, which, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, drums are just like, it's rhythmic. And I think there's things that drummers can do that are very interesting. Like I think of, 4 Year Strong, their drummer is very, very good. But a lot of the stuff that was like that I thought about with them is they're kind of just playing, in the same time as the guitars. They get really chuggy and you can play quarter notes on the kick. But like, I think for the most part, like what I enjoy from these other drummers is the main beat itself has an element of flair that didn't need to be there. But like, if you took it away, something would feel like it's kind of missing, but you wouldn't like be like desiring anything. But the fact that it is there is like so tasty.
Here's a question. If you were to have picked an LP3 song off Ocean Avenue, which would you have picked?
Well, I might still pick one later on.
Okay, I was going to say pick one better than Breathing and swap it for the playlist, because mostly I just want the playlist to be good.
I mean, the one that comes to mind that I can think of immediately would be Ocean Avenue, but
interesting. That's what's interesting as I was looking at, and I'll just say these, Everything Is All Right, First Date, Misery Business, Ocean Avenue. I'm like, are these just the hits? Or am I just an idiot? But like, then you're listening and it's like, are we going to sound really stupid if we just pick the obvious really good songs? But then like, oh, these are good bands with good drummers and the drummers are drumming to the best of their abilities, obviously.
Right.
So it's like kind of this catch-22 of like, you don't want to be too obvious or whatever, which that's why we call ourselves fake music journalists, because this whole exercise is so strange and silly to, I think, both of us. But anyway, okay, maybe we'll switch that up in the playlist later, but I did want to ask that. Do you have another pick coming your way?
You have two now.
Two now, okay. I'm going to use these as questions to you. I'm going to pick Machine Gun by Sum 41 off Half Hour of Power, if only to ask you how you feel about Steve Jokes. There's an element of singing while playing, which Melissa from Twitter commented about, that has to play in to some of these acts. I imagine that's not very easy to do. And is he respected as a drummer? I just picked the most metal sounding thing off of their early, like more, they were like, hey, it's a more metally Blink-182. Great. So I just kind of picked this blindly. I imagine he's getting after it. Just thoughts on him, this song, Sum 41, anything in that way, in that field.
Do you remember playing, or maybe you weren't there, the show at the Pepsi Amphitheater in downtown Erie? It was a battle of the bands.
Yeah. Well, I know Zach went through his Half Hour of Power phase, because he was like rock and roll rock for like the first 14 years of his life. Because he had like
only.
yeah. I mean, it was a very endearing quality, I think. I think when we were 13 or whatever, when we first started playing music, he literally taped a piece of printer paper on the back of his guitar and wrote "Rock On" on it so he could flip it up and show people, which we didn't have any gigs at the time. It was just him so when Half Hour of Power came out, I think he was just him and thousands of young American and Canadian fans, I'm sure, or whoever else around the world was listening, but they were just like, oh, yes, we got one. Our dads seem to like this type of thing, but this feels real. I don't know how much more real you could get. They seem to be getting after it.
So Zach wanted us to cover Machine Gun at the Pepsi Amphitheater show, and he also wanted me to do the wow freak out. And he had this thing with like, he really wanted me to sing stuff. And I was like, I can't. He's like, just do it. It's like this. I'm like, yeah, but I can't do it.
Play like this, and then sing, doodle boop boop beep. I think he was just trying to be a friend because he knew you wanted to, and he was trying to break you out of your shell a little bit.
But like, I could not play this song. So we compromised and we played the Hell song instead, which was still very hard for me. And he lost his voice during that song. But yes, I could not sustain snare rolls for that long at age 15.
Okay, so there's some chops involved with Machine Gun.
Very, very fast is what's going on.
Fast for the sake of fast, or like?
No, it works. And the song's called Machine Gun. The snare, I mean, you want the snare to sound like a machine gun.
Right. Well, I mean, like, it's so rocky. Everything about this song, album, this band at this moment screams like, rock and roll, baby. But yeah, okay. So it's in the ballpark. That's all. And then he's not as good as Trey Cool on the all-time list, I imagine, but still somebody of note, or no, in your eyes?
Oh, no, I think he's one of the greats in the genre.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and another one of those just picking the hits thing. I was like, do you do Fat Lip just because of the give and take vocal stuff? Could not have been very easy live. But anyway, that's one pick for me, just to get that out of the way. And I'll do this next. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
Oh, yeah. You feeling nervous?
This whole time. I'm very out of my element. Okay, let's take it here then. We got Sum 41 out of the way. I'll add another bit of questions. Man, I don't have it today, Tom. Anyway, let's do a song by Paramore.
Oh.
And that song by Paramore, I'm just going to stick with this. I appreciate the help on Twitter. Let's do Brick by Boring Brick, one of Adrian's.
Ooh, yeah.
Off of Brand New Eyes, which is to say, and Devin chimed in, I would low-key pick so many songs off Riot. Zach Farrow is insane to me. Devin again. I love Zach. He's so sick. Originally, when they announced that he was doing the drums for After Laughter, I was so excited but disappointed because it was just for the album, quote unquote. But later they announced that he agreed to be a full-time member again, and I was through the roof. Any Zach Farrow thoughts? And after Haley's voice, and just Haley in general, are the drums the second most important aspect of what Paramore is?
Yeah, totally. Zach Farrow's a genius.
So it's real. These are all real, correct, takes. The man's got chops.
I have some picks that will probably end up in honorable mentions, but no, he adds so much to that band. It's insanity. And that song is so good too.
Yes, I think doing this show has made us, like, maybe 2 years ago we would have really botched a Paramore catalog draft we probably might do soon. Oh, well, we did an episode on the band, but that was before some of the more recent. Well, I'll say this. I would feel more comfortable doing a Paramore draft now, because I think by doing the show, we've been hearing people's opinions about After Laughter and Brand New Eyes and how beloved kind of different eras of that band are. Anyway, sounds like Zach Farrow is a big part of why they do what they do well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think all the people that are in there need to be in there, but he is adding a whole lot to that band.
Half the time he was just wearing a polo. He was like 11. So he's just making it happen. Anyway, wanted to get that off. I'm just at this point have a list of people that I want to check with you, like chops, no chops.
Yeah.
But sounds like they've been chops down the line so far.
Okay, so I have 2 picks left and you have a last one, and it's like I had 11 honorable mentions and I don't know which 2 to pick from this. But I'm going to go with Hey Elzar, Take It Up Another Notch with the Spice Weasel Bam by Me vs. Hero, drummer Oliver Bradley. I very vividly remember sitting in Mr. Bischoff's junior year AP Lit class or something and just being like, Adam, listen to this song. It is nuts. No, 2008 this would have been. And he was like not impressed. I don't know, they're just like playing really fast. But the drums in this song are crazy. And it was always like, man, if I could just play the first 45 seconds of this, I would be as good of a drummer as I've always wanted to be. It's, talking about Jesus of Suburbia, it's just this guy shredding for like a while, and it drives me nuts. Me vs. Hero is one of my favorite bands of all time. They were one of the easy core bands that came around when 4 Year Strong was popping off that actually did something unique, and it was very, very, very good. R.I.P. Me vs. Hero. I could do it to bop it for you, but there are just too many goddamn notes. so I won't, but it'll be in the playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. And then the last one here, I have to go with It's Dangerous Business Walking Out Your Front Door by Under Oath, the drummer, obviously Aaron Gillespie. Melissa pointed out is not only the drummer, he also was like the clean vocalist for this band. And in preparation for the show, I listened to like a bunch of their songs, and I realized that he is mostly flexing on the drums during the parts where he's singing, which is crazy. The guy is, one of the best in the whole goddamn thing, especially because the fact that his voice is so incredible too. But the first 30 seconds of this are nuts, and he's just wailing on that snare in the same way that Norma Jean did the same in Robots 3 Human Zero. it never really comes back to like full insanity like this, but it's a very impressive performance out of the gate with this song. There are a lot of other songs I could have picked. Really excited for the honorable mentions, but had to give Under Oath a shout out because he is also singing. And the times that I sang and played drums for 4 Under Par, it is really hard to like. It's not even like hitting the right note with your singing. It's like you're performing 2 different rhythms, and it's really hard when they don't line up very well. And the way Aaron Gillespie plays, it's just chaos. So how can you possibly find the rhythm in the vocals while you're playing what he's usually playing at the time? Just amazing.
Sounds like chops to me, Tom.
Chops.
I'll take my last stab here. NDOT on Twitter, quote, at least one song from the Wonder Years. Mike Kennedy is one of the best drummers in pop punk. I'm just going to take a swing at the record that happened, one of the records that happened to come out in the time period we're talking about. Would Everything I Own Fits in This Backpack count as one of the ones he's popping off on from the Upsides? Or would you have a second pick? Any thoughts on Mr. Kennedy?
That was one of my favorite songs on that album. I love the drums on it. He does these really unique fills during the
my
intro.
note was fills, basically. The word fills for this one.
Yeah, just so I have
left it leaving through a closed arteria. That was the worst Soupy impression that's ever occurred on this program.
I think if we talk again, one of the most underrated drummers in the entire scene. Watching him play live, the dude is flawless, and not in a way that's boring. Like he looks good, he looks happy, he's smacking the shit out of those drums, and he is so good. You know, I'm really
Do people ever
embarrassed.
say slapping them skins?
Slapping them skins? We do now.
Oh, hey, all right. Dear drummers everywhere, we're saying slapping them skins now.
I'm embarrassed that I didn't have a song on here, but when I think of the Wonder Years drumming, I think of Get Stoked on it, and I think of Suburbia. Because I remember when we talk about late nights at Eaton Park and Perkins and shit, I remember talking to my friend Tyler being like, right when the Upsides came out, we went back home, I think it might have been winter break, and being like, I feel like the musicianship on this record feels a little bit more reserved than especially they were on Get Stoked on it. That album is just pure chaos, and it's one of my it's probably my favorite album of theirs, but I feel like he never really quite popped off that much on this record. Maybe here and there, but no, this is a good pick. I think he does a really great job on this song.
Nice. Well, we'll close it there, and appreciate you adding some context to some of my later round picks. Mostly I just wanted a chops, no chops decision on some of these folks. Sounds like there are, you mentioned a lot today, people who were underrated. You gave that title to a few folks. Any deeply overrated drummers from this slice of the music scene that we talk about on the show?
I mean, people don't, if they're talking about drummers in this genre, they're talking about Travis Barker, and that might be it. I remember my friend Seth would again, trying to convince me that the Rev was the best drummer in the world. And
yeah, him and Travis were the two, when you just Google like good drummers, which I fucking did. Travis and the Avenged Sevenfold guy definitely were two that, you kind of recognize as that aren't like, that weren't in the Who basically.
Yeah. I don't know. I never really thought he was that much to write home about. I mean, but also it might just be because so many drummers in metalcore, in the heavier genres, are so technical that it's hard to stand out, because it's almost like everyone has to be so good to be in a good band that, I don't know, it now kind of makes me feel like we just spent a whole time talking about drummers in the genre that there's not really much to talk about. So maybe it's like easier for people in this genre to stand out, but yeah, I don't know.
Do you feel better about this, or do you feel better about the bass episode after we were done recording
way
that?
better about this.
Oh, okay,
sure.
Good. I feel like I've just been holding you back for like an hour, but I'm glad. I feel like we talked about some stuff. Slapping skins, having a good time.
Do you want to Do you want to get some honorable mentions? Because I've got a few.
Yeah, I'll throw some out there. I have, so I was going to do a pick from The Offspring just because, again, I was literally just Googling drummers plus good. And The Offspring came up and they had a couple records that came out in the 2000s. And You're Gonna Go Far, Kid is a song that I really liked. But what's interesting is The Offspring's drummer that was getting some props on some stuff I was reading about wasn't in the studio for this. It was a guy named Josh Freese, who is the Devo drummer and has spent time with Guns N' Roses, Nine Inch Nails, Weezer, and Sublime with Rome. So this like legend happened to be laying down the tracks for that record, it looks like. So I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I can kind of hear it. I was getting into it, trying to pretend like I knew anything about drums for a minute. I was like, oh, it's not even the guy people are telling me is good. It's a guy named Josh Freese, who's also very good. So You're Gonna Go Far, Kid by The Offspring.
Nice. The Offspring's drummer was Adam Willard, was also in Angels and Airwaves.
That is very fucking interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. I like it a lot. What's not to love, as far as I can tell?
I don't know if Adam Willard did the album you're talking about, but I thought his drums on Angels and Airwaves was a lot of fun. While we're on it, give me The War by Angels and Airwaves, because I think, the drums are very simple, but his and it's simple, but it's really, really nice.
I think this was a Melissa pick on Twitter, but in regards to myself, Under Oath, was that the one you picked?
Ooh. No, but that's a good one.
So let's toss that on there. Some of these are the crowdsourced ones, P.S., as I go down my honorable mentions.
Give me Misery Business by Paramore, Zach Farrow.
Yeah, there you go.
Just really nice little offbeat. I mean, also the song starts with that crack.
Yeah, Matt and Devin on Twitter were all over that one, I think.
Yeah. This song is...
Also like an excellent, hey, hit that snare little thing in their recording.
Hit that snare.
And then he fucking does, Tom. Boy, does he ever listen to that instruction.
Yeah. Oh, and like the pre-chorus with the drum, the snare roll down the toms, and oh, dude. Ooh, the song
Indeed it does. Also, at some point we'll do the music video. I don't know how to do it well, but it's fucking insane. I'll do people online. The internet was giving props to the drummer for NoFX. I don't know him like that, but I had Separation of Church and Skate on here from the War on Errorism, just to give props to the internet strangers that told me he was good at his job.
All right. In some places in Ohio, there is no separation of church and skate because they had churches with a punk pastor at a skate park. I remember seeing those billboards. This is 2011, but you, Local Man Ruins Everything by the Wonder Years. If we're going to talk about Mike Kennedy as a drummer,
let's talk about Mike Kennedy as a drummer.
This is the biggest flex he probably has in his entire discography. The boy is just losing his fucking mind in this song. It is really something else.
Nice. Here's an interesting one from Matt on Twitter. He said Tom Falcone from Cute Is What We Aim For is pretty good. Do we toss on Cursive Curves just because it's a hit and it'll make the playlist better? Or any thoughts on Cute Is What We Aim For from a chop standpoint?
I've never noticed their drums, but I haven't listened to them a bunch, and I haven't listened to them in a long time.
Fair enough. Let's toss it in there for funsies.
All right. I Am Fred Astaire by Taking Back Sunday. Drummer Mark McConnell he plays some really, really fascinating stuff. And actually, I'm just going to pick two of his right now.
Sure.
I Am Fred Astaire was like an early email address of mine. Maybe that's a post show. I know I told you one day about it.
That's interesting. Taking Back Sunday gets its first mention of the day because I was curious. Some of the ones we love not getting mentioned, which doesn't
so
mean anything.
Good. I mean, the beat's so fascinating. Really, really fun. And then also this photograph is Proof by Taking Back Sunday. Again, Mark McConnell. It's this really, really interesting double kick and like a 16th note hi-hat pattern that I stole for our song You Only Live Once. It's like it's so fascinating to me, and I could never play it, so I kind of changed it to make it something that I was able to play. But he's playing this like on the kick and snare as he's playing 16th notes on the hi-hat, and I was always so enamored with this beat.
Nice. A couple of Twitter picks here. Obscure History says Never Meant by American Football, which I don't know if is in the decade or not, but is definitely one of those emo songs that we are now very aware of. That maybe we weren't aware of when we were in 7th grade, but But yeah, he seemed to have. He's the one that he or she or they were the ones that recommended Great Fire Vines as well. So it was kind of funny because they were like, in my drumming opinion, XYZ, and Adrian responded with, in my non-drumming opinion, XYZ. So definitely lots of good feedback on this one.
That album was 99, which is a year off, but so is Suburbia. I've given you all, now I'm nothing, so we'll call it even.
Cool.
This is a weird one if I'm picking Yellow Card. Words, Hands, Hearts by Yellow Card, LP3. It's a really... I've always had a soft spot for this song and this album's on Licensed Sounds. And I don't know, it's... Every part has a really interesting drum lick on it. And the fills going into the chorus, it's like really simple, just a... And it just... I mean, it's so like... It's like a beginner level fill, but he does it perfectly. And it's like the perfect thing for that time. He's playing some really cool tom parts during the verses and some snare rolls later on. And if you listen for the hi-hat, I don't know why I can't, I think it's a choke. Why is this term escaping my mind when you click the hi-hat together? There's a hi-hat part that's just going throughout, and in the chorus he's playing it on the offbeats, which like I was never able to do. I remember like when I was like 17 or 18 being like, I need to learn how to use the hi-hat on the upbeats, because I heard a lot of people doing that and it was very interesting to me. But this is a sneaky good song again, Words, Hands, Hearts by Yellow Card.
Nice. My last one here, one more from Adrian. Substitution by the Silver Sun Pickups. I say this because I am going to work a Silver Sun Pickups reference into every episode until Tom gives them the proper credit they deserve.
Never listened to them before.
Well, okay. I'm going to keep mentioning it until you're their biggest fan.
All right.
It might take the rest of my life, Tom, but
I have two more. Give me the Hell Song by Sum 41, Steve Jocks.
Yeah.
Just so sick. And I remember I was in the basement.
A Jocks jam, if you will. Nope. If you won't, that's fine too. I wasn't that happy with it. So
I remember I was in the basement of my mom's house on 32nd Street, and Jay Scott came over with his guitar. I think he had a Flying V and like a little practice amp, and he just always looked so cool all the time. He intimidated me. I couldn't believe this cool 8th grader was at my house. And he was like, do you know any songs? And again, like around this time, I've only been playing drums for like a year and a half. I didn't know like songs. Like I could play along with stuff, but I didn't like know how other people played. And I was like, I really like the song, The Shooting Star That Destroyed Us All. And he was like, cool. Well, we can play it if you want. I know like the riff. And I remember being like, I don't think I'm good enough for it. And even like listening back today, that dude is throwing in a snare hit anywhere he possibly can. And it's like a really interesting drum part during the heavier parts. And I also just want to give a shout out to any drummer that used a 9-inch Zilbel before a breakdown in the year 2008. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That is like... Even
I know exactly what you're talking about, Tom.
There was a really good meme that was like the last thing you hear before the world implodes and all the demons from hell rise to earth to like... just ding, ding.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's so good. It's so good. So shout out to any drummer that owned a 9-inch Zilbel.
There was just I remember being at a show in 2008 and I had flip-flops on, and I don't even remember why. And it was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life.
For sure.
Because that sound meant that my feet were going to be gone soon if I didn't get the out of there.
I had a 9-inch Zilbel, and that thing weighs like 45 pounds, dude. I loved it.
Its
so
existence
much.
Is gnarly. Like it just being heavy and shit.
Anyway, amazing.
Nice little bow on the drum draft there. I like that.
Yeah.
Good ad. Good addition.
Well, cool, man. I want to give a song of the week, and we'll head to the Patreon post show.
Yeah, I need to look it up though. You want to go first?
Yeah, give me Marigold. I'm still working through Chunk No Captain Chunk's new album, Gone to the Good Days. I've listened to nothing but this record for the past week. I am so obsessed with it. The song Marigold is so much fun. Really beautiful love song. The bridge into the last chorus is really good. Just a great track.
Yeah, give me I Guess I Just Feel Like by John Mayer off Sob Rock. Just a good one. I know I've used a lot of those songs off of that album lately, but yeah, it's a nice song. I like it a lot. It's a good, like, I felt like giving up song without being too, I don't know. It's a nice one. It's smooth, but I don't know. Sob Rock fucking rules, man. It's really good.
I haven't listened yet. I really have to.
I think it might be it kind of comes out kind of uniquely with kind of like the 80s synth stuff in track one, but I've been texting with our buddy Zach about it a little bit because I know he's a big John Mayer fan, but yeah. It might be my favorite album of the year so far. I don't know. I find myself really, really listening to it quite a bit. So,
all right.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, cool beans. I thought this was going to be a really short episode.
They never are.
I'm glad it wasn't. This was a lot of fun. Thanks to, I think some people might have like reached out asking for us to do this episode. If that was you, thank you so much. Thank you to people that gave Pat some ideas. Not me, of course.
Yes,
not me.
Helped us. Yeah, no. Tom's notes were locked in for sure. And mine were, honestly, except that they weren't, and I used all of your answers for my draft. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you all so much. Love you. Love you, dude.
We're going to go to the post show and talk about Meg White. Bye, everybody.
All right, that actually ended up being kind of a long one, and I hope you dug it. Please hit us up on Twitter @_reminiscentfm to scream at us about all your favorite drummers and the favorite songs of yours that we missed. That's the most fun part of the show. It's the most fun part of the drafts. Make sure to go to the show notes at reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/240 to find links to the Apple Music and Spotify playlists. Thank you all so much. We'll catch you next week. We love you all. Bye, everyone.